wow, yo, yippee, yay, guys. Pile number 5, and I'm super excited to be with you guys. As always, we're going to dive into the love of the community, then talk about what's happening on the SwissBorg network, and talk about what is the big news of this week. Of course, announcements of Solana going crazy and nuts, with Pith being about to be listed on the SwissBorg app, but as well the launch with the airdrop with Jupiter and being launched at the same time on the SwissBorg app. We're going to talk about, of course, about the alpha deals with Colony having a very great discount deal and how this launchpad is going to change the lives of the Borgers and many others. And maybe last to talk about a bit of short up what happened last week during our wonderful roadshow across Europe. As you guys know, my name is Cyrus Vizel. I'm the proud founder and CEO of SwissBorg, always here to serve you. And I have to talk about this t-shirt. I just love it. Founded at this party at Solana, and there's always another cycle. And as you guys know, we're living in the current one, which is a very exciting one. Question of the week. Thanks, Frederick, for asking this question. How are your funds segregated? How are they kept safe? How each individual could check that. And this is something that's paramount. While we built SwissBorg, as we came from the traditional world, we tried to say, okay, what is the next stage of how you could really not commingle funds, but on the opposite, take what essentially Web3 is all about, empowering people to keep their own funds in a safe way, keeping their data in a safe way, keeping their cryptos in a very safe way. And this is exactly what we've been doing. So legally, we put in place essentially already a framework where we said that every user essentially has its own key and has its own wallet with that key. And he's the only person, or she's the only person that can move these funds. This is the first thing. And therefore, by being these legal documents, we built the framework around that the same way possible. SwissBorg is a bit like a blockchain. Stuff is not decentralized. The private keys remain on an MPC technology, but you have your user ID, which essentially is a bit like your public key. It's the same thing. And then you have essentially the memo phrases that can enable you to, whenever you change phones, to essentially restart and not do your KYC, but to onboard just as if you had a self-custodian wallet. And here you could really do this in a way that you could verify it. So you could go on the website, okay, and then you go on proof of liabilities. We really did a hard work last year to putting this in place. You could really just validate your balance here, just putting your ID here, and essentially this will enable you to exactly check what you have the funds with us. And more importantly, which is great by that, is that you could see as well all the audits that we've done, and we publish them with different auditors. And this is something that really enables us to not reassure ourselves, but to make sure that we're not going to be an FTX. We're not going to be another, Ponzi scheme, such as many competitors in the past. We're really relying on this blockchain technology to secure your funds in the best way possible. And for that, I think so. That's why SwissBorg is safe, is secure, and it's done in the Web3 matter with having a great experience. News of the week, the TradFi market is going very well. S&P 500 actually hits its high record. What we're seeing as well is that Bitcoin's whales is really accumulating. I think this is really, really good. MicroStrategy and many others are just buying more and more and more. When whales accumulate in their portfolio new Bitcoins, that means we're in an early stage of a bull. Most of the times this is what happens. Last but not least, we're talking about Elon Musk, and maybe he's going to have payments on Twitter, on X, which is going to be really cool. And that's the reason why I have personally a nice bag of Dodge tokens. Dog is my dog. Dodge is my dog. Let's talk about markets. So beyond the Bitcoin ETF, I think so what is very interesting to see is that, well, we definitely had the buy the rumor, sell the news type of appetite. We know that essentially some big institutional like FTX had to essentially liquidate a lot of Bitcoins. We know as well that unfortunately there's other firms that have to do the same thing. They're going to bankruptcy. And last but not least, we saw obviously, one of the biggest ETN back then, which was Grayscale, was a note about Bitcoin, people liquidating, and that has pushed the Bitcoin to unfortunately go underneath of the 40,000, which was really something very, very important. But the great thing is that we got over this. So I think it was a good retracement. And now we have a solid base right now at 40,000. What we could see in this graph here, which is very interesting, is that essentially Bitcoin market cap is still very high. We're almost at 70% of the total market cap, which essentially is very, very big. The dominance is definitely very big. But what we're going to see is most probably that as the next Ethereum ETF is going to happen, it's going to be very interesting to see how Ethereum is going to be the next big catalyst. Market update. Let's talk about the Bitcoin ETF that has changed forever the market. As you guys know, this is going to be bringing billions of dollars in this ETF, and people get exposure to Bitcoin. We don't know that story. We know that a lot of people bought the rumor and sold the news. But not only the Bitcoin has capitulated from 48,000 to 38,000 and knocked back at the resistance of around 41, 42, is because a lot of sell-offs have happened due to bankruptcy. Bankruptcy for our two biggest enemies of all time, FTX and essentially Celsius. These two essentially have went through bankruptcy and had to sell a lot of their Bitcoins in order to fund essentially people that have lost a lot of money on their platforms, because they didn't have FUSO reserves, they didn't have segregated funds. And this is why you should again tell everyone that does not have segregated funds or not regulated entities in Europe to not hold your cryptos with them. It's very important, this. What I see, which is quite interesting, is that Bitcoin dominance has really grown since the last cycle. And that usually happens. In bear cycles, essentially people fly to security and essentially accumulate Bitcoin because they believe that this is something that will save on the long run and they'll be there, right? So this is something that commonly happens. But then very often we could see an inverse of this. And we could see an inverse, especially when we see that the short-term holders on Ethereum has actually finally turned into something more positive. We've seen that essentially capitulation has been here for a very long time, since essentially the last bear market. And right now we're finally turning into a new optimism here, right? Where essentially people are going from capitulation, hope, to essentially optimism here. And this is something that's very good. Optimism is awfully driven by the fact that there's going to be an ETF that's going to happen. Already the ETF of Ethereum futures is already trading itself, has already been approved. We believe that in the next quarter, we will see essentially Ethereum being traded on the American stock exchanges through ETFs, and that'll be finally the day of the Web3 IPO. And here you see essentially that the dominance has a little uppick from the Ethereum to essentially the altcoins, and you're probably going to see a dominance that's going to happen most probably with Ethereum while this is being approved, because again, you're buying the rumor and selling the news type of thing. So we'll see essentially Ethereum have a stronger dominance towards the other altcoins. Talking about tokens and performance, this week has been definitely a very good week. You could see the bubble chart of all the different tokens that are part of the SwissBorg essentially network. Obviously, one of the nicest one was Helium, and then essentially Solana. There's still a lot of things going on, and you can see the whole Solana ecosystem is really boosting by itself. It's really showing the world that Ethereum has done great to Web3, but Solana is a strong contender, an ally in some ways too, that essentially is showing real world applications through DeFi, but as well through Helium network and many other different ones. And I think so this is something that's very, very good. Obviously, it's the airdrop season, so a lot of things are happening on this great Solana network. And of course, there's more than just airdrop. There's a lot of crazy meme tokens as well, boosting all the day. Some of them are very Ponzi-ish, but it's still bringing a lot of activity and a lot of traction towards Solana. If you guys still don't know what Helium is, Helium was the first token that was listed with the MEX, right? Our meta exchange that is better than SEX. What I really like about Helium for me is that it's a really strong use case. It's what IOTA has dreamt about. Helium is actually doing it, right? Bringing how you bring IoT and telecom into blockchain. And this is huge, huge cases, right? A lot of people right now are farming essentially Helium tokens by supporting essentially the network itself. And you're seeing real world cases that are changing everyone's daily life in the US, but as well in Mexico, where essentially you're able to provide 5G networks, so cell phone reception and network for people in these countries. So this could be a really great game changer, and thinking about how you could provide essentially IoT but these cell networks in places that don't exist. Or think about the second way, which is that while you're providing essentially your data to all these different networks, some of them could be really sensible, these data, and you rather give it to a blockchain network where you have governance play, where you could see transparency through just giving it to T-Mobile or giving it to random different cell carriers. So this is really a strong cases. Helium is definitely a token that I personally have, and I recommend people to look into it and to really use this network, or at least look into the token itself. Colony Lab, we had the talk last week with Ellie, the founder himself and CEO. We are very excited to have Colony. That's going to be a discount deal essentially happening on Thursday. Again, if you missed last week, please revisit essentially the video of last week. It's a great way to understand how this Launchpad is very different, how it's specialized on Avalanche, why Avalanche Network is just doing so well. And yes, it is for me a very, very, very small market cap when you look at the competitors such as PokeStarter or Dealmaker or Radium whatsoever. They have as well different things, which is really good, which is the primary market that will be tradable. They have a strong foundation in terms of the team, but as well the fundamentals of the treasury that goes on it. They have a lot of the different things that are going regarding their own Launchpad, and the people who will essentially be able to invest into this Launchpad will be able to get access to the deals in the best way possible going forward with the Colony Labs and SwissBorg Network. So I hope you guys have enjoyed last week, and congrats for those going to make it after tomorrow. Talking about great investment opportunities, these are another ones to really look into it. One is Pith and the other one is Jupiter. And let's check out what Jupiter is all about. So Jupiter, what it is essentially, Jupiter is today the #1 DeFi application that's on Solana. It essentially is an aggregator, a little bit like 1inch, where you have different dexes that you could trade through it. So you could buy any type of tokens that's on the Solana network, and it's done in a very nice way, right? It's a bit like the smart engine, but through Web3. You could have limit prices that could be added to it. You could actually have as well DCA. There is a bridge. They just have started their perpetual, and there's soon a Launchpad, right? The Launchpad, which I think was the station. What I like very much about Jupiter is that everyone is very excited about it. It's something that everyone's been talking about it for a long time. And it's really, I would say, a strong bone for essentially Solana. They have their own decentralized exchange as well, which is Meteora. If you have been trading through essentially or using their product, you're probably eligible already for an airdrop. And the great news is that this will be traded at SwissBorg right away. Now let's talk about Pith. Pith for us is one of the most exciting projects. If you ask Nicolas, our CTO, or Antoine, our DeFi guys, or different people within the team, they're all so excited about Pith. And Pith, why? Pith is an oracle that could really pull some of the best data in order to make sure that essentially all of these different decentralized applications get their data feed for prices and for what you want. Essentially, it's a bit like a chain link, but that's working much better through a multi-chain and a way that their token has a really strong cases. With Chainlink, which I always thought is a great project, it's always quite hard to understand what is their strong use case for their token and how it's done in a transparent way. What I love about essentially what is done through Pith is that, again, it's multi-chain, but you pull essentially the data that you want and you pay for that data. And it's done in a very, very good way. It's done through all the different DeFi applications that are on Solana, but you can see on Synthetics as well, on Ribbon, Alpaca Finance. And if you, on the opposite, want to provide some clean data sets to these guys, which, for example, SwissBorg is doing, you could get essentially rewarded for this. So it's a really good reward token. And it's a really good payment token. It's a multi-chain. The technology is how to pull essentially data and not push. So because when you push data, essentially you have to pay a lot of high gas fees for potentially no reason, where here you can really figure out which is the right one for you. The team is great. It's very much a great partnership with SwissBorg, and I'm very excited to say that we're going to list it right on day one with that. So today, Tab, we're very excited to see that there's been a lot of A/B results. I hope you guys really like it. There's been a lot of people that are experimenting in different ways and trying to get to what is the future of the Home tab. The Home tab, it's really a new feature that you just could look at as, okay, this looks nice, but think about the future of how this cyber could predict and help you to have a great investment experience. And this is what we're trying to do at SwissBorg, is how to make you guys invest in the best way in order to get financial free. This is something that's very different from any other crypto exchange or different crypto casinos that are just trying to make you go nuts and go crazy and essentially generate a lot of trading fees and revenues only based on if you're going out of the business or not, or like CFDs trying to bring you into territories where they have to say that 80% or 90% of people just lose money all the time. Here, it's really the opposite. We want to this home tab to really say, okay, I feel like home. I feel like I'm managing my portfolio. I have the great recommendations that are done. I have the great articles. And what I would like to ask you today is, what would you guys love to see in the home tab? What do you guys like to see? And this is really a constructive feedback that I'll let you guys see. So please comment here, say what you want. The one who has the most like will make it happen in the app for sure. So looking forward to all your comments here. And please, this should be something where people are very interested in. And of course, going forward, a lot of it will be customized. So not everyone will have the same home tab, and it's already done in the back right now. So we're trying to figure out who wants to see what. Talking about thank you, I just want to thank for people who made it last week. We had really 4 great shows. We started in Zurich on Monday, Tuesday was in Paris, Wednesday was in Brussels, and Thursday, which I couldn't make it, was in London. Sold out every day, was between 120 to 150 people following the places. It was just amazing to see many of you there. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys as well enjoyed the courses, the masterclass of really the macro perspective and how SwissBorg is evolving, the story of how the Borg is changing and how we're trying to bring this in a decentralized manner, but as well to really make it more centered in the heart of our ecosystem and in our app itself. I thought that it was brilliant to see Camino and as well Galactica, which was a really fascinating talks regarding that. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was beautiful to see many stories of many people that you guys shared. There's one story I wanted to share, which was beautiful, is that one of our dear community members came up to me and said, recently it was the 20th birthday of meeting my wife, and for that I smart send her 20,000 Borg tokens. And he said that in relationships, sometimes there's some ups and sometimes there's downs, but most of the time there's not much happening. And it's in these moments that you figure out how to really love something that goes on the long run, because there's not always excitement in life. But if you're able to enjoy those periods that are a bit dull, which is happening right with the Borg, you're going to really be able to really capitalize on the great moments that are about to happen. And for that, I think so it was really nice to say that. I really want as well to underline again our goal, which is to bring financial freedom to all of you guys, or wealth accumulation for those already there. And really our ambition this year is to get at least 2/3 of you guys in the green. We'll have more stats on that and making sure that your performance is going well. And last but not least, we're having a great event tomorrow in Geneva. I think so it's sold out already. It's 200 people there. So looking forward to, I won't be there, but many other people will be in Geneva. So please attend it. Please attend it and make some noise. And if you guys want to have an event in your town, please let us know where we should come next. The Guardian Scan Year's code is number 10th. A lot of cool things happening. So obviously it's about, this time is every quarter where we're about to say if you need to burn, if you need to put in a safety net, if you want to get them as a reward, or use this as the DAO treasury to do some cool stuff. Advertisement is now on the agenda, but they might meet cool other stuff. So please look forward to see what's going to happen with this new advertisement. Very excited about that. Weekly and Borg data, things are going quite well. 383, so 100 less than last week. But we finally get to 153,000. And of course, we have 10% bump from last week. Things are looking better and the market's looking better. Which brings us to the community index, Cassier score. Unfortunately, it's not a great one. The volume and the app activity is really going down. The Borg a little bit too. But nevertheless, 5.2 is still above 5 point, but we're not at the 7 target. Beautiful burgers, again, amazing to see you guys last week. It was really, really nice to see. This week is, as you guys understand, it's about Solana. It's about, as well, of course, about the different tokens that are happening around that. So Pyth, and as well, it's going to be our wonderful Jupiter DeFi protocol. Of course, we were talking about Colini Labs, which is a great launchpad on Avalanche. And last but not least, Ethereum is definitely the one that's going to surprise many people, and where we believe essentially it's going to essentially grow a lot. We see Ethereum by the end of the year at least at 7,000. That's a bit of objective that we see, and probably we'll see a lot of trading happening in right now to the next following weeks until it gets listed as the ETF. As always, guys, be healthy, be wealthy, love our Borg and equity. Take care, guys. Bye.
Through SwissBorg, all assets will have a fiat gateway. And here is the thing.
Premium features gives you 0 fee trading.
It's an amazing fiat gateway.